Welcome to one of the fastest growing sports YouTube channels out there, Gold and Blue Dude. And today we're going to talk about more chaos teams. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Gold and Blue Dude. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day. While you're here, go check out my good friends at tristatewoodsketch.com. All you have to do is go to www.tristatewoodsketch.com. Send him the picture and he'll transfer it onto wood. It's never too early to start your Christmas shopping. Mention Gold and Blue Dude and you'll get 20% off. The other day, I did a video on teams that could cause some chaos in college football in 2021. And I didn't think I included enough teams. So I decided to do another video on more teams that could cause chaos this year. First, we'll start with the Pac-12. In the Pac-12 North, I think Cal caused some chaos. Here's a look at their schedule. Nevada at TCU, Sacramento State, at Washington, Washington State, at Oregon, Colorado, Oregon State, at Arizona, USC, at Stanford, at UCLA. This team was very up and down last year. They had a great win over Oregon, 21-17, and last year they only had 3 practices before the season. This year, 74 out of 88 starters will be back, and I think quarterback Chase Garbers is a diamond in the rough and could potentially be one of the best quarterbacks in the Pac-12. He's a dual threat quarterback. And I think a healthy running back, Christopher Brown Jr., is bad news for the Pac-12. They have 4 starting offensive linemen back, and the wide receiving core is deep and experienced. Cal's defense, who's been the best in the Pac-12 the past 3 years, comes back mostly intact this year. So yes, Cal's going to be very dangerous, cause some chaos, and get to a bowl. In the Pac-12 South, UCLA. Here's a look at their schedule. Hawaii, LSU, Fresno State, at Stanford, Arizona State, at Arizona, at Washington, Oregon, at Utah, Colorado, at USC, Cal. The chant going on around UCLA is DTR. DTR, their quarterback. Great dual threat quarterback, needs to improve on consistency though. UCLA could have one of the best offensive lines in the Pac-12 this year. Running backs Brenton Brown, Casimir Allen, Zach Charbonnet, the Michigan transfer, will give UCLA a great running attack. Now the wide receiving core has great potential to be a group of big-time playmakers, but they are young and inexperienced. 10 starters return on the defense, so I expect UCLA to cause some chaos this year and get to a bowl. Now time for the ACC. First, the Coastal, Virginia. Here's a look at their schedule. William and Mary, Illinois, at North Carolina, Wake Forest, at Miami, Florida, at Louisville, Duke, Georgia Tech, at BYU, Notre Dame, at Pitt, Virginia Tech. I think Virginia has a great chance to get to a bowl. 2020 was really the only year that Virginia didn't show growth under head coach Bronco Mendenhall. If quarterback Brennan Armstrong can improve on ball security, he could be in for a special season. Virginia brings back a very experienced offensive line, and running backs Wayne Kalapapa, Bonnie Walker Jr., and Mike Hollins will give Virginia a solid backfield. Now the wide receiving core is filled with experienced transfers. But the question is, can they mesh as a unit? I think Virginia could have one of the best secondaries in the Coastal Division. They just need to find a quality edge rusher. So I expect Virginia to cause some chaos and get to a bowl. Now for the ACC Atlantic, Boston College, under the radar, possibly a breakout year. Here's a look at their schedule. Colgate, at UMass, at Temple, Missouri, at Clemson, NC State, at Louisville, at Syracuse, Virginia Tech, at Georgia Tech, Florida State, Wake Forest. Boston College has transitioned out of the power running game into an RPO type of offense. Notre Dame quarterback transfer Phil Jurkovec looked great last year and looks to take another step forward this year. He has great wide receiver targets: Zay Flowers, CJ Lewis, and Kobe White. I think those wide receivers will be a problem for opposing defenses. The running game has to get better, but the good news is a lot of experience will be back in the running back group. I think the defense will continue to improve. They got a big-time pickup in the Florida State transfer, who's a 5-star defensive back, Jaden Lars Woodby. But I think the secondary will definitely be the strength. We're 3rd in the ACC last year. Look for Boston College to take a step forward and scare some teams, cause some chaos, get to a bowl. Next up, the Big 12, TCU. I think TCU has a big bounce back year this year, possibly 10 wins. Here's a look at their schedule. Duquesne, Cal, SMU, Texas, at Texas Tech, at Oklahoma, West Virginia, at Kansas State, Baylor, at Oklahoma State, Kansas, at Iowa State. So they do get some tough road games, but if they can pull off an upset at Oklahoma or at Iowa State, that would be some chaos. The bottom line is head coach Gary Patterson never stays down after a bad season. It all starts with quarterback Max Duggan. He's under the radar, sneaky good. He'll have mostly seniors to throw to at wide receiver. TCU could have the deepest running back core in the Big 12, and 3 starters are back on the offensive line. I think the defense will have a big bounce back year. They'll have the top-rated safeties against Power 5 opponents for 2020 back this year. Defensive end Ochon Mathis is a sack machine. The only real questions on defense is at linebacker, but I think TCU will get that figured out and cause some chaos. Definitely get into a bowl, possibly New Year's Six bowl. Next up, the Big 10. Ten. The Big Ten East first. The team that could cause some chaos in the Big Ten East, Maryland. Here's a look at their schedule. West Virginia, Howard, at Illinois. Kansas State, Iowa, at Ohio State. At Minnesota, Indiana, Penn State. At Michigan State, Michigan, at Rutgers. Maryland was hot and cold last year. Head coach Mike Locksley has a lot to prove this year. Their quarterback Tagovailoa could be set for a breakout year. He does have experienced and reliable wide receivers. Running back Tayon Fleet Davis can do it all. He can run, he can catch, and he can block. And all three at a high level. He's a very dangerous athlete. Maryland will have a reliable offensive line as well. Now, the defense has to improve from last year. And they only get 6 starters back, so that's the biggest question for Maryland. But I do think that the secondary could be the strength of this defense. I think Maryland gets to a bowl, has the potential to cause some chaos, but at the same time, they could lose to some bad teams as well. We'll see. Now time for the Big Ten West. Iowa. Here's their schedule. Indiana at Iowa State, Kent State. Colorado State at Maryland, Penn State. Purdue at Wisconsin at Northwestern. Minnesota, Illinois at Nebraska. Iowa could be looking at a New Year's Six bowl and possibly 10 wins this year. I will say quarterback Spencer Petras has to be better than pedestrian this year. They do have 3 starters on the offensive line back, but the 2 that are gone are big losses. But they still have arguably the best center in the nation. They're going to have a good running game with running back Tyler Goodson. Iowa's a little thin at the wide receiver position, but tight end Sam Laporta is back. That's a big deal. On defense, their defensive line is a concern because 3 of their 4 starters are gone. They have playmakers at the linebacking position and in the secondary. I think the defense will be just fine because Iowa always figures out a way to put a solid defensive line out there. I think Iowa's going to cause some major issues in the Big Ten West and actually compete for the Big Ten West division title. Last conference, of course, the SEC. First, the SEC East. Missouri. Here's a look at their schedule. Central Michigan at Kentucky, Southeast Missouri, at Boston College, Tennessee, North Texas, Texas A&M at Vanderbilt, at Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, at Arkansas. I think Missouri is definitely a bowl team this year. Quarterback Connor Bazelak could be in for a special season, but he can't let mistakes get in his head. Running backs Tyler Beatty and Elijah Young will battle for the starting job. The only thing is Missouri's wide receiving core is a head scratcher. They're hot sometimes and they're cold sometimes. Talented, yet inconsistent. Now on the defensive side of the ball, they have a new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes. I think depth will be much better for the defense this year, and that's been the biggest issue recently on the defensive side of the ball, depth. I think Missouri will have a great pass rush this year, but the biggest question on defense will be at the safety position. Big-time playmakers Joshua Bledsoe and Tyree Gillespie are gone. Those are some big shoes to fill. But overall, I think Missouri is going to be a good team. They're going to cause some chaos and get to a good bowl. Finally, the SEC West. Gotta mention Arkansas when you're talking about chaos teams. Arkansas had the title of the best 3-win team in 2020. I think this year Arkansas gets to a bowl. Here's a look at their schedule. Rice, Texas, Georgia Southern, Texas A&M in Arlington, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, Auburn, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Mississippi State, at LSU, at Alabama, Missouri. Arkansas was better than what their record indicated last year. Quarterback KJ Jefferson looks to win the starting job. He's a dual threat quarterback, and he'll have plenty of weapons to throw to. Not to mention the entire offensive line is back. Arkansas has much better depth this year, and Arkansas is super deep at the running back position. They'll shift to a 3-man front on defense, so look for a lot of linebacker and safety blitzes to fill those gaps. I think Arkansas' secondary will most definitely be the strength of this defense, but they do need to figure out how to get to the quarterback more. If they do that, look for Arkansas to take a big step forward in 2021. I think Arkansas causes a lot of chaos this year, gets to a bowl, and could affect the college football playoff landscape this year. Y'all let me know what you think about this list. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.